Okay, everybody, I'm back with part two of this topic, which was started at the Bumble King forums and brought over to the Sega forums. And again, I'll provide the link to the videos, or to not the videos, but to the topics in the description box of these videos. Now, to answer the question, and I'll probably answer this in text as well, but to answer the question, is Ian Flynn in doing a better job than past Sonic writers? Well, it's like one person used a GIF picture from Spider-Man, from one of the original Spider-Man movies. Basically, this person, by using this, says no, he's not perfect. But I will agree with some people. Now, I know some people might say, "Oh, you're finally." No, I know some of you might watch this and say, "Oh, you're finally kissing up to him and everything." No, I'm just being honest. You see, despite my differences with him at certain times in the past, Ian Flynn is potentially, in my honest opinion, a good writer. Not a great writer, but he has potential. And potential means he can do a lot better than some people give him credit for. He has proven it in the past. Now, I know there's a lot of Ian supporters that will say, you know, he's one of the best, he's the greatest and everything. And that's their opinion, and they're entitled to it. But potentially, he could be, in a realistic standpoint, potentially could be one of the best Archie Comics has for any of the comics. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he does do some good stories. I'll give him credit on that. I'm not denying it. I mean, one of the things I've said constantly at times, and throughout many videos, one of the things I respect about him is he is one of the he's one of the very few fans of the fan base itself to actually write for the comic. To go from being a fan fiction, fan artist, fan webcomic writer to being the actual writer for the comic. I mean, again, he does some interesting, and I will admit at times, very controversial stories. There's no doubt about it. I mean, did he make a controversial decision when he wrote in that Sally will be roboticized and be Mecha Sally for the next year and a half or so? Yeah, he made a controversial decision. But when you look at it, I think he did it for many other reasons. One is he planned to probably have this done with before this year is out. But because you had these one-shot issues like 242 and 45, the reason you have the crossover coming up and all that, he couldn't get done as much as he wanted to. I mean, his ultimate plan was to obviously wrap this up by 250, at least the Mecha Sally part, but he couldn't do it. He can't do that because of other reasons. But was it a controversial decision on his part? Yeah. Because obviously, you know, he does plan in advance, there's no doubt about it, write stories in advance of what he's going to do, or what it's going to be about. But controversially, he didn't know how people would react. I mean, fans did like it because it was a change. Fans didn't like it because they felt that he could have gone a different way. And with the obvious revelation of the new design, or the redesign, if you will, they felt he could have done it. He could have done without it. He could have done a different way. And again, was it a controversial decision? Yes, it was very controversial because, again, with the obvious revelation of the new redesign for next year, you know, a lot of fans are like, "Oh, come on, you know, this is what the whole story's been about." But again, besides that, he potentially is a great writer. I mean, did I like what he did with Sally? No, not particularly. But again, he did what he felt would make intrigue, make things controversial, make the fans talk. So again, does that make him a good? Does that make him better? I can't really say. I mean, like I said, he does do some stories that are way better than. He does do some stories that have been a little bit way better than what Gallagher and Bowlers and Penders have done. I will admit that. But another thing though that I will say is that potentially, again, he has the ability to be one of the best writers they've ever had. But I will say this: from a Ian Flynn basically, from a fan perspective, understands what the fans want. And he does want to give us what we want. He does want to provide stories that we will enjoy as fans. But, on the other hand, he wants to do that, but then he can't do it because of certain reasons. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'll be totally honest. I've read, before I think he came on board as a head writer there, that he did support Sonic and Sally. There's no doubt about it. I read that somewhere. I did. Along with some others. He does support them. And there's no doubt in my mind he would love to put those two together as a couple in the book. There's no doubt about that. But because of the fact that Sega and Archie pretty much have the final say in what goes in there, he can't really establish, he can't really say, okay, I'm going to make Sally and Sonic a couple permanently. He can't do it. As much as he would love to, he can't do it. And that's what makes him potentially, and that's what makes him a good writer, and potentially sometime down the line probably one of the best they have. But again, he wants to give the fans what they want, but then again, he's also got to fight the fact that he's got to listen to what Sega and Archie tell him to do. You know, and I will be honest, and I will say this, there are times he is honest. Yes, it does sound like, I'll shoot with you on this one, it does sound like he's beating around the bush when it comes to certain topics. There's no doubt about it. In certain situations, in certain story elements, he's beating certain characters. You know, it does seem, and I'm shooting here, that he does seem to be beating around the bush about that. But, as he has said many times, whether we want to like hearing it or not, he can't really come out and say what he wants to say. I mean, I admit, one of the reasons I got banned from his site, from his message board, was I kept on asking him, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about this? What about that person? What about that character? Blah, blah. I just kept constantly bombarding him with questions that were diving too deep into the behind the scenes of the comic. Basically, almost figuring out, along with some others, exactly what would probably happen. And that's one of the reasons, I will be honest with you, that I was basically banned from the message board because of things like that. But you see, as much as we may not like the fact that he's got to beat around the bush about certain things, he does, when he feels like it, he can be honest. I mean, he has come out, let's give him credit, guys, whether we like the guy or not. He has come out and said, look, you know, I didn't want to do the crossover in the middle of the story arc. I wanted the crossover to be done after the story arc. I didn't want to do the Olympic tie-in or the All-Stars Transformed adaptions, you know, promotions, if you will, promo issues, until after the story arc. He's being honest. He's being honest. Let's look at it from his perspective. What would you rather do if you were in his shoes? Would you rather get a story arc that you're currently working on done and out of the way as quickly as possible? Or do you want to have an interruption by saying, oh, by the way, have an interruption by having the people that basically you got to answer to saying, oh, but calling you up and going like, oh, by the way, can you do this for the November issues? And then you saying, I got this planned out, and can that wait a little bit? And having them go, no, it can't wait. We got this game coming out, and, you know, we kind of fell behind a little bit when it came to the Olympics deal, so can you try to at least get them out by November? Thank you. That's basically what it is. And he can't say no because the people that back the comic, Sega, can pull the plug at any time. It's the same thing. When they called him up about, when they and Capcom called up about the crossover, he's done the same thing, saying, well, I got this big story arc I want to plan on, you know, climaxing in the 250th issue, but what you're telling me is you want me to use the 250th issue as one of the last parts or one of the last issues of the crossover? Not the last issue, but one of the last issues? That doesn't make sense. It's wasting an anniversary issue. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand, but blah, blah, blah. All right, I'll do the crossover. That's basically what it is. That's basically his reaction. He can't say no. He and Archie can't say no because they want it done now. And you got to respect the guy for having to basically swallow his pride and do what they want, even though I will admit, and I think some of you will agree on this, it's a dumb-ass move to do. I mean, if you're currently working on a story arc, if you currently have one of your head writers working on probably the longest, if not the most controversial story arc you got going, only to have it interrupted by a crossover, which would have little impact unless it has something to do with the story arc, then it's not a good move. And again, you have to respect Ian when he says, hey, I didn't want to do it at this time, but I'm forced to do it because they want me to do it. They're telling me to do it. And that's one thing I do respect about him. He is honest. But he does beat, I will say this again, and I'm shooting on it, he does beat around the bush about certain subjects. And certain things going on. So that is one thing I will shoot on. He does beat around the bush. Now, there is one person over at his forums that said that the one thing he needs to kind of focus on doing when it comes to these stories is balancing. And what they're talking about is right now you got all this negative stuff going on in the main story arc that eventually he's got to find a way to balance it out with some good. And I'll be honest with you, I think that good's going to come when the restoration of Sally happens, and that's just going to be the first step. So, again, it's all about balancing it out. To this person, it's all about Ian learning how to balance out. But it's like Darth Armony Shadow said in his response video to me. He said basically, Ian is working on 4 different books. And I've said this before. Ian basically needs, in all honesty, if I'm Ian Flynn, I hand off a issue or so to somebody else so it makes room for me so I can focus more, so I can have more focus on what I'm doing for the Sonic comic. Because if I'm working on a major story arc, which I also at times will span into my spin-off comic, then I want to put 100% of my focus into that and not be distracted by other story arcs in other comics. But, again, the question is he better than the previous artists or previous writers? He's okay. There's no doubt about it. He's good. He's okay. And it's like I said many times before, he has the potential to be one of the best Archie's ever had. One of the best. But the question being, can he reach that potential when the time is right? I believe he can, but right now, like some people, like Dan Dreisen, like this one individual on his site, they've all said the same thing. He needs to balance it out, balance the good and the bad, and he needs, in Dan Dreisen's way of saying, he needs to start using elements that are there in the story arc, within the story arc, instead of tossing them aside. So, again, in my personal opinion, he's good, he's okay, and he does have the potential to be a great writer. But what are your guys' thoughts? I know some of you here on YouTube will say he's good, but I know some of you will also have your own difference of opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. Video responses are greatly welcomed. Comments are welcomed as well. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to y'all later. Again, and I do apologize for this being in 2 parts, but YouTube's taken away my unlimited time limit for the time being. So, comment down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.